Coming up, I talk about my account right now of trying to get back on the dating trail, back into the dating game once again after a long period of time off, a long break, and getting that relationship rust off, which I'm sure some of you have, where myself, it's a different kind of story. We're going to talk about that right now on this full-length edition of the Depraved and Debaucherous. Hi there, this is King of Podcasts. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for subscribing, finding the show wherever you do. By the way, it was not on Stitcher until I most recently added the show. It's now available on Stitcher, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have anything you want to ask me here to talk about on the program, please email me, kingofpodcasts@yahoo.com, or reach out to me on the social media. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at King of Podcasts. So this week, I decided to, after a lot of things happening, going on with things going on within my family, personal things, and I'll say that it's kind of made me kind of just reflect on things and say, well, you know what? Maybe I want to get myself back out onto the dating front once again. And I've thought about it. And I decided to go and open up a couple of subscriptions, see what happens, see what's out there. And I've had some conversations so far. And the one thing I haven't done in a long time was talk to anyone that was more my age, in my 40s. Because I still feel like, for someone like myself, I'm an anomaly. Okay, in my 40s, I've struggled dating-wise because I never went that far into any relationship, because as soon as I felt like things were not going to go my way, I was being selfish, all through my teens, into my 20s, into my 30s, then I just basically said, well, I'm just going to bail out. And I would just bail out every time, and not thinking that I'm going to stick around and wait for things to turn around. Because of me, I always felt like if I'm not getting any satisfaction from this potential relationship, namely, if I don't have someone that is reciprocating what I'm looking for. And part of it is because I was looking for particular women that I was going out with that were not necessarily quality women. And I'm not saying the women that were out there were not good women, but they all have some kind of character traits or past relationships that really hurt them in the long run. And that leads into one of the things I'll talk about tonight on this program, is the fact that when you're getting yourself back out onto the dating front and realizing the kind of compromise you just have just to go on a date, for those that are getting themselves back out there after what was going on with the pandemic and saying, we've been so comfortable, we're sitting at home, we're remote working, many of us, and the idea of getting dressed up and having to go out on a proper date or spend money on a dinner date or things like that. I mean, for me, I have listened to so many different TikTok videos of different coaches and different people saying what you should go do if you want to go out on a date. It's the whole high value man, high value woman, modern woman kind of mindset. And you have to determine the fact that when I meet a girl and knowing what expectations they might have for me right off the bat, like if it's something about courting a girl and we have to spend a little bit of money just to make a good impression, well, that money can come and go. And if it's only the money and the support we can give, and that's all we are there for, then I can always justify guys that just decide, well, we're just going to find a girl that's like a sugar daddy or a girl that's just going to be a friends with benefits. And we support them in some way, but we only do a temporary support. We get what we want out of the situationship, friendship, whatever it is, get in and out. Whenever we call upon, we do what we want to do with them and move along. But in dating, how many women out there, how many of you women that are listening to the show, wherever you are around the world, in America, we have an issue where there is this impression of what you're supposed to do dating somebody and what you do and what you can do to go out with them. So it's the level of excitement, the level of enthusiasm, the way you perceive. when we know that the first impression that you're giving on a date will not be the way it is a year down the line, 5 years down the line when you get married or after you get married and when the honeymoon's over. And most women and men don't even think about where things are when things get settled down. Just trying to realize the simple things. How well do you get along with each other? Do you have like-minded things where you do things for each other and that you grow a love for each other? Like, how often does that happen? The people that get married, they figure that out. And the ones that stay married the longest are the ones that figure that out. That they know how to push each other's buttons. I always learn that lesson. Love buttons. You find out what it is that you love about that person. That will never change. It's unconditional. And that love will be a feeling that you'll have that's just attached to you. And then you want to share that love and that bringing babies into the world and having children. Listen, I think the whole idea, if a marriage is done right and children are brought into the relationship and you get to raise a nice family, that's a wonderful thing. And I'll admit, it is a nice thing to have. And I think some people, when they have it the right way, we can be very envious of that. And I can tell you that I see some people out there that the benefits of being in a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship are really cool. And what it is to me is I notice with a couple of different guys that I have that are, football fans. We get together to watch football on the weekends. During football season, I'll tell you, like, a number of them are happily married. And when I first met them, 17 years ago? Some of those guys were not married. They were very much single bachelors and playing the game and running the field and had different girls they were with. But there are various guys right now that I know of. They are 3 of them or 4, I think they are, out of a group of 10 or 12. They're married. In the time that I hung out with them and I've gotten to know them, they all got married. Happily. They're both, dual income families. With one of the guys, he is, does very well when it comes to work. So does she. And they found a way to raise, kids and make it work. And just all the things being done because they were 2 smart individuals, definitely had love for each other, went through a lot of things to make the relationship happen. Without going into detail, without being into giving personal details here. But marriages, just the thought of that possibility is why we're in this in the first place. Initially. But then after that, I look at myself and I say, okay, well, I'm not even looking for that anymore. That was a nice thought, a nice idea when I was in my 20s, maybe my 30s. But by the time I got to my late 20s, I was done with that. I felt like in my 30s, I needed to catch up for lost time. So any thoughts of marriages or relationships or things like that, that's what's just thrown out the window. Opportunities presented themselves, but the problem was that I didn't find anybody by my 30s that was going to be at my level. Now, my career level is one thing. I've excelled very well in the career I have. I should have more to show for it in terms of income, but I'm okay. I'm okay with that. But then the relationship level, the romance, the social level, no. It's basically back to where I was at 18, 19 years old. I could be a college freshman and have less experience dating and relationships than most college freshmen do. Or actually more, I should say more like high schoolers, to be honest with you. I have the dating and relationship experience of, like an 18-year-old. Seriously. Sexual experience? It's a little bit different. And because of that, that's a disadvantage for me. Because it doesn't make sense for me to date someone my age when I have never had serious relationships or any long withstanding relationships where I was with somebody and I was in love with them. I never have been in love before. Never experienced that. So you ask yourself, why, King of Podcasts, why are you doing this show for? Because I want to learn this. I want to understand it. And you know what? This is me doing the learning and the researching and giving myself the knowledge that I never got. And I want to be that mentor that says, you know what? You should know this growing up. Like, my target audience is basically those that are teenage years, 15, 16, all the way up until, my age, into your 40s. that's really the audience. And for me, quite a few times, I like to focus towards women because I want the women in this audience not to look at me as trying to be some misogynist. I'm trying to understand here. And if some women don't like what I'm talking about, it's because of the fact that I might be talking about the modern woman and the perception that's out there. And that if I'm not going kumbaya and rah, sis, boom, bah on all the things a woman wants in terms of support, in terms of status, in terms of income level, in terms of looks, one of the newest things I heard about was 6'6" and 6". You want a man that's 6 feet tall, a man with a 6-figure income at least, minimum, and a 6-pack, which represents about 2% of all eligible men in America. There are more than that in America, but they're all taken and married, or they're not on the market. And so some women, young and beautiful, they're going to continue to look for that. But then by the time they get older, they're going to have no experience in any relationships at all, unless they got lucky with somebody that might have been a sugar daddy. So then you're going to have experiences with a sugar daddy that's going to be an older guy that's just using you just for your body and for who you are. You might be mentored and take care of the daddy issues might come from, which that's okay. Maybe that's something that you need, but you don't need that for very long. Like if you're looking to be a sugar mama or should be a sugar baby and you are, into your 30s, that's something, there's something there that's not right. I can justify when a woman wants to be a sugar baby up until her late 20s, 27, 28, maybe 29, but that's as much as it gets because the appeal of a sugar baby to a sugar daddy at a later age doesn't work. And so you have already, as a woman, you might have gone on with somebody that was your age, going into high school sweethearts, trying to hold on to that sanctity of being a virgin or being with that first person that you lost your virginity to. And then still dating anyway because of the peer pressure of high school, because you can't be alone for the ridicule that you might get from others. And then you're in this, and then you are caught up in a pattern where nobody's there to really support you and help you get out of the rut that you're in of finding a toxic boyfriend, because then you just follow yourself into a pattern of finding another toxic boyfriend who could be worse than the other one because they might hold on to you because of your youth and beauty, but then they might take you at your weakness from the previous relationship and then really add on to it. And who knows, you might just bring yourself into another guy that just ends up to be more manipulative and narcissistic. These are why those stories are so important when I talk about here on the program. Now back to my original point. Because of the fact that as a guy, I never got to date teenage girls when I was a teenager. When I was trying to date in my 20s, I was trying to go after teenage girls, late teenage, 18, 19, 20, 21. And I ended up getting the ones that were at that age, because I was a bit older. I was more of a mentor, and I was friend zoned like crazy. And then, because of the fact that I was going after girls that were absolutely damaged for the most part, because of what I was interested in, what I was attracted to, I wanted to be the rescuer. I wanted to be one that rescues. I wanted to find that Cinderella, that damsel in distress. That thought process, I've talked about it. You guys don't have soap operas out there that you might have watched when you were growing up and you might have happened to see that on TV. You don't have that anymore. But what you do have is you see girls that are online that you find that are in that same kind of rescuing, damsel in distress, submissive, or they just have this aura, this fantasy feel about them that make you simp. As a young guy, you simp over these young, really pretty girls that are now taking advantage of, first of all, already being damaged for themselves from bad relationships, and now just going the money route. What can they do to monetize their youth and beauty for the time being? OnlyFans? ASMR live streams on Twitch and TikTok? Sure. There's a lot of girls that do that. I mean, I would tell you, on TikTok, take your pick on the number of girls that do ASMR. They have a Blue Yeti in front of them. Like the other day, I just saw one girl who's like extremely popular, and I passed by that you can't help yourself. You're going to catch those FYP feeds all the time. And this girl's using shaving cream that's already onto like a piece of plastic wrap on top of her microphone, and she's rubbing the shaving cream on the microphone with the plastic wrap, and she's got gloves on and she's doing that. And if she's not doing that, she's using like little, glitter, water-filled type of things that create a noise. So these ASMR toys, whatever, that she's using just to create sounds. And then, of course, the soft voices with the lisp and the extra kind of like saliva, kind of just like gurgling in the background of their voice. Their soft, sweet baby type voice. And guys are goo-goo gaga-going all over it. And those guys are not worrying about getting out there and dating. Because what happens is that when you are keeping yourself so stuck online and you can't get yourself out of the rut of dating initially and then moving forward into trying to go out on a date. One of the things I notice when it comes to women, we know that with this remote work kind of ideal and then the whole environment of going out, sure, you're going to have girls that are going to go out to the clubs, strip clubs, the bars, and they're going to dress, in dresses that are very provocative. But that's not the way they're going to look when you go out on dates with them on a regular basis. Unless you're just going to the clubs and the bars and the restaurants and you're living that lifestyle and you're spending all that money on the drinks at the bar, in the club for the cover, and whatever else you're doing out there to impress the girl. Just to see her in that outfit and then she doesn't have to put out and do anything. Or the fact you have to go out and create the persona, create the image, create the status, spend the money on the things that you need to impress a woman. The cars, the clothes, the look, your collection of whatever. And I know for me, of course, I'm going to have this comfort level now of always being in shorts and always being in like gym clothes, basically. It's very comfortable. And for me to go ahead and get dressed, like throw on a pair of jeans and a shirt, I don't do it often. And, it's hot outside. Like even just going out and go to a convention the other day when I, was just struggling to try to go because I had a, family emergency going on. I'll tell you this is that, it was uncomfortable being out there in that 90-degree heat wearing whatever kind of clothes that are just like very casual and normal. But then thinking about having to go out on a date and knowing I'm going to probably sweat because of the clothes I have on because we're out there in the heat, the humidity is going to go on. Doesn't matter if you're walking for like 2 seconds or 2 miles, you're going to sweat. Okay. And then I'm normally never dressed that way. So that's not indicative of who I am all the time. And then the women also, they're not going to get themselves dressed up either. Like they might just go out in like sweatpants, yoga pants, shorts, whatever, and just go casual as well. And also maybe not take I'll tell you with a lot of girls that I know of that when they've decided just to go independent, I'll do what I want. Well, some girls will do what they want, and if they're young, they're still sexy. They'll still dress as much. But, of course, you're finding a girl in her 30s and 40s, she's going to have the perception, well, I can't dress like those younger girls. I can't look like the auntie out there. Okay. But then they're not going to change the clothes. Because I brought that kind of thing up where a couple of girls I've been talking to on chat so far for a few days, I bring up the fact that what always brings me to a girl, to attention to a girl is not the makeup that she wears, not the clothes that she wants to wear. It's just her being casual, accentuating her body in a nice, cute pair of jeans and a shirt. Everything body hugging, everything, can be covered up, whatever, but it's like, show me your body. And honestly, don't worry about showing me your body. If it's not hourglass, I don't care. I like a girl that has a little bit of a pooch or a muffin top or, a little bit of belly on her. Like, I got no problem with that. And I like a chubby girl. There you go. But for me, most girls, teens and 20s, will dress provocative and will be looking a certain way that I will find very attractive and be turned on to. Because that's where my mind goes anyway. I'm not going to get a girl and try to make her change her look when she's not comfortable that way. And especially girls that have been kind of buried because they feel a lack of self-esteem and confidence for their bodies. I mean, think of the trouble that you might have to go through to try to help encourage and support and to try to bring her out of where she feels like she's been very comfortable and homely and not putting out the effort. Because I think there's a thing where women might not want to put out the effort, especially if they're going on a dating site and you're talking to them and there's not much effort that needs to be put. But then the effort you're going to try to get them to come on out, it's just not that common. It doesn't happen as much. And that's one of the things that I look at right now and I struggle with. And I think there's this rust that everybody has from relationships that were bad. And even with the girls I'm talking to, I can't relate to them. Talking about, well, they had their share of bad relationships and they were toxic. I could detect when they've been in toxic, narcissistic, manipulative, controlling relationships. Yes. Like, that's pretty obvious. And I can probably point that out and realize what's going on there. And that would help me to relate to the woman so I can break the ice and say, listen, I get you've gone through this kind of relationships, and I'm trying to, as best I can, try to show you that I'm not that kind of guy. I understand what you're going through and what you've been through. And my thing is always, I wish I was the guy that was dating the girl when she was so giving, so loving, and while she was being so manipulated, was just so much of her heart, was so people-pleasing, and just would do whatever it took to make her man happy. Well, I want what those guys that didn't deserve those kind of girls became. Not what they became. I wanted them as they were. I wish I had a girl that would give that kind of effort to me, to make me want to give the effort. You know, there's a bunch of stories that talk about that. And it sucks. Like, one story I'll tell you is from Psychology Today is how searching for unconditional love ruins relationships. So you think about some of these things that are going on that really hurt. Now, one of the things they talk about here is unconditional love frequently masks a profound lack of self-love. Yeah, don't love yourself, and the way you look at yourself and the way you feel about yourself, you're trying to fill the void. And I'll admit I've tried to fill that void myself. A dogged power in the belief of conditional love. Unconditional love can blind you to red flags and the warning signs of an unhealthy relationship. But I mean, I'll tell you, I wish I could find a girl that was looking for unconditional love, that gives unconditional love. To find that unconditional love, to be the giver and the receiver. I want that. And I'm sure a lot of people want that. But that unconditional love blinds you to red flags and warning signs of an unhealthy relationship. So when you are giving yourself out there, you're vulnerable to a bad relationship, to a toxic relationship. I wish it wasn't the case. There's so many good women that are stuck in bad relationships right now. And I think part of the thing too is that I also kind of figure out that they're much more appealing in a really twisted way. A woman that is a damsel in distress becomes more attractive. When, if she wasn't in such a case, maybe there's not so much of an appeal to her. Listen, I probably am completely wrong here. I hope somebody tells me and calls me to the floor on this. Like, I hope somebody does that. Please don't just sit here and listen to me and she's a king of podcasts. You're a fool. Listen to you. You don't know what you're talking about. Please tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. I really want you to do that. I don't mind it. If I'm getting called out for it, I would love to go ahead and read your comments here, whether it's on the YouTube channel, if you're catching it here, or if you're emailing me, kingofpodcasts@yahoo.com, or you're reaching me on social media. So, I mean, please do. I want you to go ahead and call me out on this if I'm completely wrong, but I can't help but talk about this because this is what I know. This is what I've learned. In human relationships, love is a force like no other. The beating heart of our most incredible memories, the glue that binds us to others, the fuel that drives our passions, and the comfort that soothes us. And I can't say, except for love for family, have I ever felt that kind of love. And I hope that all of you out there get a chance to at least experience that kind of unconditional love, that kind of love that you feel like, you know, you're in love, you've been in love, and you have just such a great love for someone. Everybody talks about how wonderful it is, and they talk about an unconditional love feeling is intoxicating, an emotion like no other. And that some of us will look craving unconditional love, destabilizing and flooding you with uncertainty and confusion. You're not wrong in this article, by the way, here. Soon you stop thinking clearly and blind yourself to red flags and warning signals of an unhealthy relationship. In other words, you don't see the person in front of you. You see the person you want to see. And I'll tell you what, they're absolutely right on this, because I have done that. I have sought out unconditional love. I have gotten together with girls that were completely red flags. No reason with me being with them at all. Unless I did talk to a girl initially and I didn't know who she was and it was a blind date, and I told her exactly what I was looking for, which is why in my 30s, Craigslist ads were the bomb. Craigslist ads and posting a Craigslist relationship ad, a dating ad, and being exactly looking for what you want, and a lot of people were on there seeking people. Man, I'll tell you, I did so good with that. Anybody else about 5-10 years ago that used to do Craigslist ads, how well did you guys do? Because I was really good with that. And I actually dated, and I had better chances of relationships with the girls on there. I think of 3 or 4 girls that I met off of there and just really excelled. Like, I didn't even get even close to the kind of relationships I got. I mean, there were exceptions. Yahoo Personals back in the day before AOL bought them and Match bought them. Yahoo had their own, and it was really good. And I was amazed with certain people that I met on there and how they turned out. But it's a different story now. And so, why seeking unconditional love is bad for relationships? They say, number 1 is distrust. You constantly badger your partner for proof of their love. Absolutely right. Pretty close. Anxiety, you continually feel hurt and confused by your partner's choices. You start to doubt your judgment, and soon your anxiety skyrockets. You feel rejected and abandoned when your partner attempts to set boundaries or ask for space. And this is where, when that kind of thing happens and you're looking for unconditional love, I think a lot of narcissistic, manipulative types are looking for that. And they're trying to get that in a very twisted, evil way. Illness, it can make you physically sick. The best way to find a loving relationship is to start with a loving relationship with yourself. Complete yourself by practicing self-care, developing your interests and passions, and if you feel stuck in relationships, group therapy is an excellent choice. All these self-care efforts will strengthen your sense of identity and self-worth, so you won't develop an unhealthy dependency on your partner to meet all your emotional needs. Yeah. And that's why I always feel like with some of the girls I talked to that had gone through toxic relationships and really were abused mentally, physically, emotionally, the thing is that it's to reinforce and re-encourage to love themselves. And to realize there was nothing wrong with them in the first place, that they got caught up in a really bad place with a really bad person or bad people. And to realize that you're not alone. There are so many other women that are in the same bed as you. And that you can, at a young age, you're bendable. You can bend yourself back to where you're supposed to be. And you can let yourself be who you are again, so that the next person that comes along doesn't get punished because you've become bitter or you've gotten hurt and you decide you're not going to make the effort anymore. So when I used to chase, of course, I would get dressed up. I would have a certain look. I would go out and do certain dates and really put the effort in. And when I was in dating game mode, man, I dated a lot. And I usually had everything set up. But you know what? It gets tiring answering the same questions, saying the same things about yourself, because I felt like I had to go ahead and answer everything that was being asked and not changing the game to fit what I was looking for. I was trying to fit some mold so that the girl would love me instead of accepting me for who I am. It's a pretty common thing. Everybody kind of goes through this. There's one other story I want to bring up before I can wrap things up. One possible reason why your ex won't leave you alone. And by the way, while I've been doing the dating idea here, one of the things I did do as well was, so there was a girl I dated several times. I think it was 2017. And we went out a few times. And I remember she had all the red flags as well. But the thing with her was that I was trying to work with her on making her feel good about herself, just re-encouraging, repurposing her looks. You know, in her teenage years, she was a bigger girl, and then she lost quite a bit of weight. She's very tall, very conscious of her body. She's 6 foot tall. And, you know, with her, she's a pretty girl, just very much was very kind of loud, a little bit brash sometimes. And I remember when I was trying to work with her, she talked about how I made her feel valued and appreciated, and that my efforts, she didn't appreciate it because she was going through so many different things. And then she gets back to me after a couple of years, after I told her we tried to make something happen, and I just let it go because she was just so flaky and so distant and so disconnected with me. I was like, I can't wait for you. I've given you so much time to have things turned around. I'm just going to let you go. And I split things up. And then she reached back out to me. I think it was on Instagram. Slid in my DMs, and we started talking again back in October of last year. And then we talked a little bit in March, and I decided to reach out to her again. You know, and now the idea was, let's see if we could try to get ourselves together and see what happens. And I think for me, it's just in the meantime of just trying to get myself back out there with somebody that's a familiar face, which everybody does. Like, I understand the part of looking for unconditional love, of knowing that idea that I want to be in my comfort zone while the woman is being in her comfort zone at my age. But that's why guys and gals, guys keep approaching younger women that are in the mode of being seen and noticed and looked at and dressing the part and looking cute and caring about their appearance greatly, when they are on their own trying to go ahead and seek out a mate or seek out something to support the fact that they have this youth and beauty, and they feel like they need somebody to go and support them, give them what they need. So they're going to put the extra effort, which is why guys want to go after the extra effort of the younger girl and tolerate the immaturity that they have. Plus some of the red flags they have themselves because of what they've gone through in relationships when they were first starting off and they were badly hurt in the process. So with a younger girl, you have to practice a lot of patience, and you have to practice a lot of, dealing with behavior that when you're an older guy, that's why the sugar daddies, it's the sugar part. And then you have to be the daddy part. Unfortunately, that is what you have to do. Because they didn't have probably a father figure that was a good role model enough for them to realize they have to be a certain behavior to be around a good guy that resembles their father when the father was a good example. Things like that. So the pattern they talk about a reason why an ex won't leave you alone is moral disengagement. It helps to better understand of what drives toxic behaviors, can help prevent people from being victims of intimate partner abuse. They talk about a specific portion of the population with dark personality traits. Manipulation, narcissism, that's what they're talking about. Expressing their highly toxic behaviors with their partners. So these traits are Machiavellianism, referring to someone who is manipulative, tricky, and ingratiating. Narcissistic, referring to someone who's self-obsessed and believes that they are special, gifted, and superior to others. Psychopathy, describing someone who is dangerously risk-seeking and lacks empathy for others. And sadism, someone who finds intrinsic pleasure in hurting others. And then they talk about moral disengagement, which they believe would complete the profile of a dark personality individual. They explained the inclusion of moral disengagement is due to the investigations, since any person who's capable of carrying out cruel and clearly antisocial actions needs to look for a series of moral justifications that allows them to think that way of acting is correct. Yeah, they justify what they're doing. And these traits are of dark personality individuals are frequently changing partners, exceptionally brief relationship duration, cheating or infidelity, and constantly seeking out new emotions and experiences through sexual relations. And in their research, they found that men scored higher than women on these personality traits and tended to express these behaviors more frequently than women. This is from the Acta Psychologica journal that did a study on the psychology of dark personality individuals and revealing how they commit reprehensible acts in their intimate relationships. We're going to continue to talk about all this because I want some healthy relationship out there. Relationships. I want people to be happy. And I know for myself, I know what my value is and what my self-worth is. I really do. And I'm trying to make the efforts constantly to make my parents look better, to make myself look better, to be a better person. But also, I am so much of a struggle to compromise if I can't find a woman that's going to ultimately make me happy, to give me the reason to allow myself to change, evolve, and be someone that is even more in love with that person, and let myself open up. Maybe someday that'll happen. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep doing this show. Thank you for listening in. I appreciate all of you checking out the show. If you get a chance, please pass the word around and let other people know about the program. You know, it's not like you're trying to let them know, oh, you need some help, you should listen to this. No, but I hope some of you word of mouth will bring up this show. The audience is starting to build a little bit, which I'm really happy to see. And I hope some of you will really get some takeaways from this program. So thanks for listening in. Find out the show. And remember, much like I am, yours truly, we are all a little depraved and debaucherous.